Long ago in Mexico, there lived a beautiful girl named Maria. She came from a poor family but was well known in her village for her beauty. One day, a very wealthy man visited the village and fell in love with her at first sight. Maria was also drawn to his charm and happily accepted his marriage proposal. After their wedding, they continued living in the village. Everything was going well, and within a few years they had 2 children. However, her husband frequently traveled for work and was often away from home. As time passed, his visits became less frequent, until one day he never returned. Maria was devastated. She wept so much that it seemed her tears had left permanent marks on her face. Her once beautiful appearance faded, and she grew pale with sorrow. Eventually, she discovered that her husband had married another young and beautiful woman in a distant town. Heartbroken and consumed by rage, Maria took her children to a river and drowned them in a moment of despair. But as she heard their cries for help, she realized the horrible mistake she had made. She frantically searched for them, but it was too late. The river had already carried them away. A few days later, Maria was found dead by the riverside. When she reached the gates of heaven, she was asked about the whereabouts of her children. Unable to answer, she was denied entry into the afterlife. Now trapped between the world of the living and the dead, Maria is doomed to spend eternity searching for her lost children along the shores of Latin America. She is always heard weeping for them, earning her the name La Llorona, the weeping woman. It is said that if you hear her cries, you must run in the opposite direction, as encountering her can bring misfortune or even death. Legend tells that La Llorona kidnaps wandering children at night, mistaking them for her own. She pleads to heaven for forgiveness, but once she realizes they are not her children, she drowns them in sorrow and despair. One such terrifying incident took place in Mexico with a boy named Pedro. Pedro was 13 years old when he was playing by the river with his younger brother. As they played, their ball accidentally fell into the water, and they ran to retrieve it. Suddenly, Pedro heard the sound of a woman crying and stopped in his tracks. His little brother, however, went ahead. What Pedro saw next was horrifying. A woman in a white gown with a veil rising from the water. She lifted his brother in her arms and vanished. Pedro screamed his brother's name, but there was no response. Suddenly, the woman reappeared and reached for him, trying to drag him into the river. Panicked, Pedro grabbed a stone and threw it at her, managing to break free and escape. Days passed, but his brother was never found. People whispered that La Llorona had taken him away. To this day, many claim to have seen her wandering near lakes and rivers at night.